Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How are we feeling this wonderful? It was sunny earlier this week, and now it's kind of cold again morning.
It was sunny this morning, which was nice.
Almost had to de-ice my windscreen this morning.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
Yeah.
But on Monday, when it was like sunny and it kind of felt like spring, it was like I was a whole new woman. I felt like I could do anything.
You were ready to change your wardrobe.
I was ready to like put all of my winter clothes away, get my summer clothes out. Finally, because I feel like I keep wearing the same thing because I just don't like any of my winter clothes.
There's nothing wrong with wearing the same thing.
No, sorry, there's nothing wrong with wearing the same thing every
wearing
single
this
day.
hoodie 5 days straight, putting it in the wash, and putting it back on again on Monday. What do you mean?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with that.
But it was nice, just that brief glimpse of what could be, and then it will rain for the rest of the year. So that was nice.
We had a back door open at the weekend, and
Goodness
that was so lovely that it wasn't too cold.
That's crazy.
I've also de-ear-muffed now in my cycling adventures. I have basically a running headband that covers your ears because I discovered the other year that when it's winter, it's actually really cold on your ears.
Yeah.
And I took that off this week, and it's been okay so far. So we are turning the corner, and that's pretty exciting.
It is pretty exciting.
That's the TripleJump weather update.
Yeah, you've had it now. However, it's way more fun to stay inside and play video games and not think about the outside. And we're going to talk about video games today. Thank you so much for joining us. Each and every week, we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Helps us keep the bulb on in this office. And I've got the ad read in front of me here. I don't suppose you've seen Dead Island 2: The Spider?
I saw Dead Island 2: The Spider the other day. Dead Island 2: The Spider is behind the camera in our studio.
Good.
Yes.
Do you think he's going to come in
cam
here?
hopping.
He's cam hopping.
Cam opping.
Cam hopping.
He's cam-opping.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you reckon he'll come in here at some point?
Eventually.
When it warms up,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
I hope so. I do
He
miss
just doesn't
him.
want to. He doesn't want to come next door because it's really cold outside.
It's cold
It's
in
quite a
here
long
as well.
walk for a little spider.
It's
Yeah.
very true. Although in years past, he has sort of hibernated in corners of the room, and
Yeah.
we didn't have that this week.
Maybe like someone's secretly been dusting all the cobwebs away.
No, in this office.
I think he's just
I don't think so.
he's gone to his winter residence, which is our studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Where he
year.
knows that we dust.
It's more. I guess it's more consistently warm, than here
true.
because it
Yeah.
gets real
It's in
cold in
use
this little
multiple
fridge
times a
we're
week.
in.
Yeah.
It's very true. Okay, I've got the ad read in front of me here. So this is another one of those partnerships between sort of video game developer / publisher and an not unknown, but like a different entity to sort of tie into the release of something to get some promotion out there.
Right.
This time around, it's Don't Nod, the studio famous for the original Life is Strange games, etc. They've got a game out now, and they've partnered with the National Residential Landlords Association, or the NRLA, to tell all those gamers out there who live in rented accommodation that their lives as landlords are hard too.
Yeah, they love doing
They've got
that.
a really tough time, and
Yeah.
they've done so by actually making a video game where you play as a teenager in the 90s and you use your handycam to make movies with your friends. But it's all about respecting rental properties and not scratching the paint or securing frames to the wall with screws and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
it's all very pro landlord.
Yeah.
It's called You ready?
Yeah.
It's called Cross Landlords Bathroom is Stained.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember what that game that it's tied in with is called.
Lost Records, Blood and Bloom and Rage or something.
Cross Landlords Bathroom is Stained.
Are they
That's
crossed
a
or cross?
rough one. That's rough.
Crossed landlords or cross?
Cross.
They're
Okay.
cross.
They're cross.
They're cross because the bathroom is stained.
Cross Landlords
Yeah.
Bathroom is Stained.
Okay.
Right.
Because they're cross.
So
that-
Lost Records, Bloom and Rage is where we've gone from.
Yeah.
That's the jumping off point.
I spent.
And we've jumped
Blue
through.
and
we've
Why
jumped
is it
through
not just room is stained? Why does it have
That's
to be the
way better.
bathroom?
That's way better.
1,000 hoops to get here.
Yeah.
I spent so long
Yeah.
on rhyming dictionaries.
On,
I think you
on
should have spent
receiving an
longer.
email from a very real sponsor is what you mean.
Yes, a very
Not on
real
rhyming.
sponsor. But theoretically, if it wasn't real, I did spend a lot of time on rhyming dictionaries because, to be honest, I thought it was lost tapes to begin with, and I
Yeah.
had this whole thing about they're putting out a notice because they lost their crepes. Shroom and Sage crepes, they're gone.
Oh, no,
and I was like,
Shroom
no,
and
that's
Sage.
not what it is. It's lost records, and that's much harder to rhyme.
Yeah.
So landlords was obviously the best rhyme.
What I love is that not one of those words rhymes.
Hang on.
You've got lost and
Stained
cross.
and rage is pretty close.
Is it?
It's not.
Yeah.
Stained and rage.
Bathroom.
They're entirely different words.
Bathroom.
And bloom.
Bloom?
That's the
Yeah.
only one that
But
rhymes.
then bathroom has too many syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no
Bloom
shorter
and
way of saying
rage.
that.
It could have just been
Bathroom
room.
and
There's no room is not a word.
And also landlords, I mean, just about rhymes with
Cross
records.
and lost.
There's
that's
a T
pretty
at
good.
the end of
Wow.
lost.
That's why I thought it was
Crossed.
I feel like
if it was
we're
crossed,
the
If you've crossed your
semantics.
landlord.
I think you'll find that that's actually not only real, but a very good rhyme
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's not real.
Across the board.
The National Residential Landlords Association, however, is real.
Oh.
And God, because they need
Full of horrible
all
people.
the help that they can get. Being
Yeah.
landlords,
Yeah.
it's tough being a landlord.
how do I charge people who've left my flat in a pristine condition? How do I take their deposit anyway?
Yeah, what paint would you recommend to paint just wholly over like
Yeah,
fixtures? How which one would you use?
What's a nice way of saying, I'm sorry your ceiling is leaking, but I'm not coming to fix it?
It's not my problem. My wife sometimes on a Saturday, or it might be a Sunday morning, when she's drinking her morning coffee, will put on Homes Under the Hammer on the telly,
Okay.
where people buy houses at auction and then they follow
Your
them, like,
70-year-old wife.
Yeah, exactly. And so many times, someone will buy it, say, "Yeah, I'm just adding it to my property portfolio."
Oh.
Yeah.
And they'll buy like a big townhouse, and they will divide it into like 4 flats.
Yeah.
It's a 2-story house, and they're like, "Yeah, what I'm going to do is put 4 different tenants in here and give them all tiny little mini kitchenettes in the corner." And it's god,
You ever seen Black Books?
sickening.
No.
I've seen like clips of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a bit where I can't remember what the actress's name is. Her room. She's basically renting a room, and the wall keeps the landlord keeps moving the wall to make more room for the person next door. It's just anyway. This is not a landlord podcast.
No.
Imagine if
let's
it was.
move on.
We'd have way more money.
Oh God, yeah, it'd be nice. Maybe we should just fake it till we make it.
Yeah,
and
just
just
pretend
make
we
a
own
landlord
houses.
podcast and see if people will just give us money
Yeah.
for being landlords. That's how it works.
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure. That's basically what landlords
They don't do anything
Yeah.
to fix stuff.
No.
And they get proper arsey when they do. Anyway, we are in fact sponsored by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump. Thank you so much, patrons. If you go there, you get access to all sorts of rewards, including exclusive access to episodes of Rules Boss and Main Menu. You get to ask questions on this podcast. You get early access to worst games and weirdest games ever, and loads more. Please do go and check it out. TripleJumpShop.com if you want some merchandise. I'm wearing some. Wouldn't be like me to wear some merchandise on a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Wait.
Yeah.
Don't want to show my skin.
Can't be doing
That's
that.
for after dark.
He's got his Japanese shirt
Japanese
on.
shirt underneath.
Very cool.
Available still.
Are they? Do we have any left?
I think we have a few left of some sizes.
It's a very cool shirt.
Yeah.
And triplejU.mup if you want to find links to everything that we do. That's our website. But now we need to tell you what's coming out on the channel this week.
Maybe we don't have any
That's
left.
no,
I've just suddenly questioned that.
because you wanted one.
Yeah.
And we had to. It was
I had
an
to ask
issue, wasn't
especially
it?
to the merch man. I said, "Have you got any just sort of lying around on the floor?" And he said, "I might do."
I got one in this size.
And then he sent me a small, which does just about
A
fit.
little crop top.
Yeah, makes me feel buff wearing it. So maybe we don't. Whatever's on the store is what we have.
Yeah. No sports time shirts, unfortunately.
No.
People do want those, but we're out. They're gone. You can crawl around in our warehouse if you want to see if you can find one. There's probably one hiding there somewhere. Anyway, out on the channel this week, there's a few different things. We've got a Worst Games Ever episode.
Fighters Uncaged. It's another Kinect game.
Boof,
Boof, boof.
boof,
I
boof.
injured didn't injure. I had sore shoulders the next morning.
We are
as
in our
promised by
Connect
Ben.
era at the moment.
We are.
are.
The Connect era is coming to a close, though, because I think this is the penultimate Connect video.
Yeah,
We've got
I think
another
Yes.
the
one.
weirdest games is the last one.
We've
Yeah.
got a Weirdest Games Connect video that will be coming out soon. That's
Yeah.
another good one. Oh, they're all great videos. You should go and watch them. They're fantastic. Rules Boss. There's an episode of Rules Boss going out on Patreon.
Also Connect based one.
Yeah.
Oh, it
That's
is,
out
yeah.
on Monday, and you can watch me dance for like 45 minutes, trying my best to succeed at a really difficult dance game.
I haven't seen that yet. Have you guys seen it?
I've seen an
No,
early
I've not
edit.
seen that one yet. No.
Okay. I'll give
And
that
speaking
one
of
a watch.
Patreon, if you really want to watch that Worst Games right now, if you're watching the podcast.
And weirdest games.
and Weirdest Games, you can get it before tomorrow.
Absolutely. And finally, it's also a Connect video. It's a launch games video, which we haven't done one of in like nearly 2 years. So this is every Connect launch game played in 2025. And I haven't looked at the comments, but I imagine that by the time the Connect era has ended and before this video comes out, people might have noticed that, why isn't Ben doing any of the Connect games? Because you're doing a couple.
And
Peter's
Peter
done a
did
couple.
too.
It's because I played like 12 of them for this video, so
Almost
I didn't
killed
want
him
to,
off.
I didn't want to do them again. In fact, a couple of the games are on this in this video. Sorry, so that will be out tonight on Saturday. So please do go check that out. And that is everything that's coming your way on Triple Jump this week.
Heavens.
Slows. Shall we crack on with a question?
Yes. We've got a question here from Chris McVeigh, who says, "Hi, Bap.
Hi.
Hello.
The PS Plus monthly games for March have just been revealed, and the headline is Dragon Age the Veilguard. There's been a consistent complaint that PS Plus Essential isn't getting the big games anymore, but a AAA single-player RPG dropping for free, in quotes, let's not start that argument, it says in brackets, just 4 months after launch would be a massive win for the service, if not for the indication of just how little faith EA have in this game. I'm aware you talked about this only a few weeks ago, but does this news make the future for BioWare even bleaker? If EA see BioWare as the developer that lost them so much money that they chose to effectively abandon selling their game to the largest console audience, they can't have much faith in Mass Effect or anything else they might want to do, rightly or wrongly. Do you think that whenever the next Mass Effect does come out, people will choose not to buy it because of this precedent that's been set? That's one for Ashton and Ben in particular, as people who actually bought and liked Veilguard.
I didn't buy it.
Oh, how did you play it?
Ben's copy.
Oh, okay. That's a question for Ben in particular, who bought and liked Veilguard. Peter and Ashton's opinion still valid, of course, but just curious whether the money spent makes it more annoying. Well, I think that's the biggest thing for me. Yeah. I mean, not for me personally, because I didn't spend the money, but as a concept, I can see how it would be a bit annoying to have spent money on a game and to have it suddenly appear in PS Plus or Game Pass without the signposting. At least, we have had games before where we perhaps know ahead of time that, after 6 months, this is likely to end up on Game Pass or something like that. And at that point, you can kind of make a judgment that like, well, I want to play it right now. I'm going to do that now. I want to play the game immediately. But to buy it and not even half a year later, it appears on a service you might already be paying for and therefore is effectively free, that's got to be a bit irritating. But, on the other hand, things like PS Plus and Game Pass, they're a useful tool for games that might be seen to be floundering by their publisher. So, EA might be kind of thinking, well, we know they are thinking, this is not doing what we wanted it to do. What else can we possibly do to try and give it a bit of a push? I know we'll put it on Plus. They're not going to then be making that much money off that. I'm sure that behind the scenes, there is, of course, some kind of deal or contract that is signed where they get a little bit of money from Sony because they have added their game to their library. But it's not the same as selling copies of your game just as a publisher in the traditional fashion. So is it too little too late for a game? Like, by the time you're adding it to, again, a quote-unquote free service where people can play it for free, whatever kind of boost in popularity you might get from people saying, all right, I'll give it a go now. I'll finally try it because it won't cost me anything. And then discovering, oh, this is actually quite good. I mean, all you're really doing is hopefully building an audience for perhaps future releases, maybe, if you're lucky, so that, however many years down the line, if we do ever get another installment, people might say, oh yeah, I played it on Plus back in the day. I really enjoyed that. I might actually buy the new one, but that's a very long-term investment. So yeah, it's difficult to see what real benefit the publisher can actually get from moving a game over so soon.
I think it's maybe a sign that the game wasn't selling as well anymore. So I feel like it makes complete sense. I think that, like, you're right in the, what do they have to gain from it? However, part of me is like, don't really care, because it means that people can play the game and actually like see how good it is and experience like what we enjoyed about the game. So part of me is like happy. I think it's a good thing, and I hope that in doing this, more people are talking about Dragon Age in a more positive light, because I do think it deserves a lot more credit than it's been given. I worry about the team at BioWare. Someone from the team, I can't remember what his name was, put a video out being like, just because you buy our game doesn't mean it gives you the right to harass us and be mean to us, because of the absolute like cacophony of hate that's been sent their way. And with EA doing absolutely nothing to protect them or shield them from it, I am a bit worried about that. However, I do think that BioWare did a good job with this in so many ways, and it's a shame that what's happened to it has happened. But I don't necessarily feel like that's BioWare's fault. I feel there's a lot of reasons that Dragon Age The Veilguard didn't do so well, partly being that the last installment came out so long ago. But I think that maybe it's a sign that EA have kind of, given up on selling it, but maybe they're hoping that in putting it on Plus and inspiring the people to talk about it again, people on other places or people who don't have Plus would be like, oh, well, maybe I actually will give it a go then, because, it sounds like it's doing really well. People really enjoy it. I think that PlayStation Plus monthly is kind of weird. I don't remember the last time I added a game to my library from PlayStation Plus. I think that most of the time they're kind of like not bad games, but games that people just don't really want to play. A lot of the time you kind of get like one all right one, and then two where you're like, okay, it's a sports game and maybe a really obscure JRPG that like nobody really wants to play. So I think this is a good thing for like all parties involved, aside from potentially EA. I think more people get their hands on the game. That's great. I think PlayStation Plus finally have a AAA game and they can be like, well, you say we didn't have any big games, but this one's actually a pretty big game from EA, so suck it. But I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing. I hope that maybe this inspires more conversation about the good things about this game, and hopefully BioWare can come out of it better for more people having played their game.
I do think that when I say I don't see what they've got to gain from this, I'm specifically talking about EA.
Yes.
Like I'm happy for BioWare. I'm happy for the game. Yeah, it'll get more eyes on it. Hopefully, positive feedback. It's nice for the developers to think, well, at least people are now playing the thing we worked hard on. But yeah, from a corporate bigwig perspective, it probably feels like a bit of a, they're just sort of resigning themselves to almost giving it away for free at this point.
Yeah.
Just take a big lump sum from PlayStation, and hopefully that offsets some of the damage. Yeah, I just hope people give it a go, because the sort of reputation of this game is, as we've spoken about many times, horrendous, which is not earned at all.
So undeserved.
And it's spread to like so many corners of the gaming ecosystem, even to many places where people are not hateful. They're just like, oh, I've heard it's not very good.
Yeah.
Just last night, one of my friends in our group chat posted the photo of, here are the games coming to PlayStation Plus, and with the caption, PlayStation Plus just gets worse and worse. And I was like, but Dragon Age is really good, though. You should try it. Like, you should give it a go. And it's such a shame. I really do hope people give it a try.
It's that thing of trickle down of information of like, it's bad because woke. And it's like, it's just bad now.
It's just bad.
It's bad.
It's the worst game that's ever been made.
The game runs well. It looks good.
It got decent review scores as well.
I think
like,
the
it reviewed
pretty
really
good.
well.
Like, the only reason they got so much hate was because, you made somebody trans? That's woke. And that means you're sad in the heart and your brain. So.
We can talk till the cows come home about how baffling the reaction to this game is and how exhausting it is, and just goes to show the dangers of the echo chambers and the way that this stuff can, as you said, trickle down. The damage that's been done to its reputation is you can see. It's so obvious. The fact this is probably big part of the reason why it's on PlayStation Plus to begin with. As for what could happen to BioWare, I've written out 4 scenarios that I think could happen with in regards to Mass Effect particularly. So scenario 1 is that BioWare are just left to their own devices and Mass Effect comes out as originally intended. Scenario 2 is that Feedback from higher-ups causes massive structural changes to the game, forcing in live service elements and microtransactions because we got to chase those trends. And
that's the reason that it failed.
That's the reason Dragon Age of the Veilguard failed.
It wasn't packed with microtransactions.
And also, we know that people love those, so we'll do that.
Famously.
Scenario 3 is that either scenarios 1 or 2 come to pass, but ultimately this is BioWare's final game, regardless of the end product, and the studio is closed shortly after the game releases because it's sort of last chance saloon. Like, okay, well, we poured enough resources into this Mass Effect game. BioWare seemingly cannot produce a hit in EA's eyes, and so you get this game out, and then we're going to make a big call about that. And then scenario 4 is that after an internal review, Mass Effect is cancelled and BioWare is shuttered before the game even comes out.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen, obviously, because I'm biased in that I would like to think that the impact, the reaction to Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and even it going on PlayStation Plus, and the potential sort of knock-on effect that could have, as Chris says, about how people may just think of BioWare as, oh, they're a PlayStation Plus free game studio only. I'm not paying money for this. I like to think that's not the case for a couple of reasons. Again, I'm a huge Mass Effect fan, so I might just be talking for myself here, but I feel like Mass Effect is a bigger deal than Dragon Age.
It's got a big legacy. I think in spite of Andromeda, it's still got
people love Mass
power
Effect
behind it.
and people love Dragon Age, but I would argue personally that Mass Effect is more popular and is bigger than Dragon Age.
I think it has more of an appeal.
Exactly. And also with the release of the Legendary Edition that came out a few years ago, in 2021, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's fresher in the general audience's minds than Dragon Age was with it last releasing in 2014. Sorry. So I hope that with the correct level of hype and marketing, and if they don't meddle with it and put loads of stupid stuff in it, and they really do market it, because I think that's another thing that Dragon Age the Veilguard did not have going for it, then people will be queuing up to buy this day one. But they have to put it in the best possible position to do that.
Well, that's the most infuriating thing, is that in one of your scenarios there, and I think you're quite right, there can be this idea that BioWare seemingly can't produce a good hit. Like a publisher can look at one of their studios and say, oh, you've done some bad stuff and you're incompetent on producing the right stuff. We're going to shut you down or restructure or do whatever. It's very convenient to be able to do that and say that without really thinking about all the actual publisher meddling that does go on in these games. When it suits you, you can say, oh, look, you did a really good game there. It's a good job we told you to put that DLC in there, or that small bit of microtransactions.
That's why it was good.
Good old publisher, eh? But if a game does badly, it's very easy to say, well, look, you've had a couple of duds in a row. It's probably a you problem. And I'm sure there have been many cases throughout history, and maybe even EA instances, where the studio is thinking, I'm pretty sure our game failed because you made us do this thing and that thing and that thing. So yeah, it's very handy to be able to just sort of wash your hands of a studio and pass the buck. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
No, fingers crossed. And do play it when it's on PlayStation Plus.
Fully recommend.
Some people say that they're not even going to redeem the game. That's bonkers to me. I mean, personally, I redeem every game that's on PlayStation Plus every month anyway, because I am quote unquote paying for it. And as long as I'm a subscriber, I'll have this huge library of games that, I may never want to go and play. And that's the case for 90% of them. The option's there. And if you like RPGs, or you've heard, or the only reason you haven't played this is because you've heard it's bad, or you're on the fence, or, couldn't afford it that month when it came out, or whatever. You're waiting for it to go down in price. Give it a go.
Yeah.
See, because it is free. So you can try it for free and make up your own mind. And hopefully you like it.
Well, now it's time for a brand new segment.
Cool.
Okay.
It's the first day of March, and it's the first day of a new segment. It's called What We Playin.
Right.
It's What We Play in time. Time to talk about the games, what we have been playing. Peter Austin, what have you been playing? Blip?
Thrust or bust?
Bloody hell, you can't
Excuse
say
me?
that.
Decide now. Thrust or bust?
Bust.
Thrust.
I have played the second Astrobot new challenge. It's called Thrust or Bust.
That sounds like an adult movie.
I wonder what it says about us, the things we picked. You picked Thrust, I picked Bust. I wonder, psychologists right now, they're writing papers about it.
Yeah, not sure. It was the one with the dog that does forward thrusts or busts. And I had a good time. It was good. Didn't recognize the character at the end. Probably should have done, but didn't. He was called Fairy Tale Boy or something, Fairy Tale Hero. Maybe it might not have even been
I'm
a boy.
going to Google him. I want to see if
I think it was a green, maybe in a green beanie with sort of blonde strands coming down.
So if I Google thrust or bust, nothing bad's going to come up.
Well, turn safe search off and
then we'll see.
Head to the videos tab.
Thrust or bust. Oh, hip thrust or bust. How to spell thrust is something that someone's Googled.
After typing the word thrust in.
How to spell thrust.
Right?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very phonetic word, thrust. Surely you wouldn't struggle.
Okay.
You may well recognize that. It looked like someone who I should know.
Right.
But I didn't.
Sorry, do continue.
Yeah.
I also...
I'm just learning how to spell thrust.
Technically this week, because since the last podcast, that evening, I did play a final little session of Orcs Must Die Death Trap, but I've not touched it since then.
Oh, it's got a windmill. I recognise him, but I don't know who he is.
He's got a windmill.
He's got a little windmill thing.
Oh, I didn't even notice he was holding a little windmill.
He's not an eco. They're in the game, aren't
Can
they?
you Google it?
Yeah.
I mean, it should just...
Fairy Tale Hero.
Mm-hmm.
If he rebuilds it, they will come.
Yeah, I couldn't work out who it was. The first one, spoilers, was Heihachi Mishima, who I do know from Tekken, and I enjoyed that. And I am holding out hope that the credit to Beyond Good and Evil in the actual game credits comes to fruition. I've only got 3 more missions left, so maybe a little pig boy will be collectible at the end or something.
Nice.
But we'll see.
That, of course, is Tone from
Tone.
Dark Cloud.
From Dark Cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
it's
JRPG
Tone.
from level 5.
I have seen Dark Cloud. The box art looks really appealing, and then
I think that's what I recognise him from. Like, I'll look up the art. We'll find out.
it looks like a game that I would really enjoy, like a mascot platformer, and then I think it turns out to not be that. Dark Cloud.
Good thing you caught him in this mascot platformer, huh?
Indeed. The one other thing I've been playing this week, though.
Oh, yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, see, that looks like it would be my kind of game, and it turns out not to be. Every time I look, I'm like, oh, what's that game like again? And I look at footage, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, no, not for me. The one other thing I've played though this week for several evenings in a row now. Hi, I'm not Ben Potter because I've been playing The Elder Scrolls Skyrim this week. And that's because I've been following the sort of associated YouTube channel for the Skyblivion mod thing that's happening, or sort of standalone gameplay experience where they're remaking all of Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. They've done a crazy amount of work, and this week they released a whole bit of like in fact, I think they streamed a gameplay demo, and I watched it after the fact. I watched the VOD. And what I actually wanted to do was start playing Oblivion. I was like, I really missed that game. I want to do that. And then I thought, don't do it. Do not play classic Oblivion now, because surely those rumors will come to fruition.
Remake's going to come out any day now.
It's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Possibly. So I held off on the temptation to play Oblivion, and I thought, I still want to play something though. So I booted up Skyrim. I used a mod that I use all the time, which is, I think it's just called Alternate Start. It means you can basically skip the tutorial and just pick a scenario like, I'm staying in a tavern, or I've just entered town, or I've just arrived off a ship, or I'm a necromancer in a dungeon. You can be.
That's where Uncle Giraffe started, I think.
Yeah, I
as
think
well,
it is, yeah.
Skyrim Zoo.
So it just means you skip the thing and you're just there in town, and it gives you like a few gold coins and a knife or whatever. So you're kind of ready to go. And I'm just playing through it and trying to like make my way towards things that I've not done before, because the classic thing, of course, when you play any Bethesda RPG is that you do the same thing that you did the last 3 times you played it, no matter how much you say that you won't do it. Stealth Archer is the classic. I've always been more of a stealth knife boy.
Okay.
Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood. I'm like, no.
What do you do, Ashton?
Play other games.
So I want to like maybe do the Fighters Guild or the Mages Guild or something like that because I don't typically do those. So I've been having a nice time. Can't see myself playing it for particularly long. It's just been nice to dip back into it and do other things. But
I so need to play it, don't I?
No.
I feel like
No.
the need to commit is too great.
You don't have to,
MB is
but-
always like, oh, I like install a bunch of mods to make it easier and like more fun. And I'm like, yeah, I do need to play it. I feel like we did a news the other day where we were talking about Elder Scrolls. And I was like, I've never played an Elder Scrolls, so do you know what this town is? And they're like, she's never played Elder Scrolls. You're on a gaming channel. I was like, there's like literally a bajillion games out there, or I've not played Skyrim. Chill.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, and also I think if you played Skyrim for the first time now, you'd probably still have an okay time, but I suspect you would need a few mods added just for the kind of quality of life stuff and even like visual upgrades. Like it still looks pretty good, but
The
playing
titty
it,
mods.
playing it without the
The titty mods.
Oh, the titty
Indeed.
mods. Yeah.
playing it without the kind of the nostalgia of, oh yeah, I played it back in 2011. I think it would be not as fun as revisiting it as someone who played it once upon a time. So that's what I've been playing though this week.
I've played a few things this week. It's the Steam Next Fest, which means there's a bunch of demos on Steam. So I've given a few of them a go. I played Architect Life. I got doing the tutorial and then it bugged out and I couldn't finish the tutorial, so I turned it off. I'm going to give it another go. Maybe I'm the problem.
Is that like a house building?
Yeah,
kind of
but
thing?
it's
Oh,
like
okay.
a bit more kind of...
nerdy.
Yeah, a bit more like
Bit more
involved.
about the numbers.
Oh my god, are you a landlord?
Huge
I can put you in touch with the
Yeah.
NRLA. They'll be happy to
Thank you. I've also played the Hotel Architect demo, which is just basically a hotel sim where you've got the
Is that
little
the same
bean
as Prison
guys.
Architect?
No,
Oh.
it's a different team, but it's very similar. Like you zone off rooms that like this is the gym
Right.
and this is the bedroom. But again, with that demo, they were like, get people to use the gym. And I built a gym. They did not come.
Oh, no.
Build it and they
So
will come
weird.
except for in this game.
You need to change the in-game month to January. That's
Yeah,
when
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
uses the gym.
Yeah. Then I've also played the last one I got around to playing last night. It's called Wonder Stop. It's a game that's coming out next month, and I've been really excited for it. Where you're a kind of a fighter who's going through something, and she ends up at this tea shop, and you have to kind of help make tea and plant stuff. And it seems really cozy and nice, and so I'm quite excited for that full game to come out next month. I think it's coming on the 20th. You'll find out in a minute because it's in the forecast.
Yes.
But yeah, it's coming out next month, and I'm quite excited for that. And the demo is really good. There's also like a bunch of other games that I've got. Like I want to try the demo for this, but I simply do not think I have the time. So those are the demos I've played. Played some more Avowed.
Oh yeah.
Guys, I think I'm not going to play anymore.
Let's talk about Avowed. I've played some Avowed too.
Yeah, I played it on my PC. You played it on your Series S.
Yes.
I just don't think I like it very much. Like I wanted to. I like kind of the traversal. I like the kind of, moving around the space, and I like the areas. I think some of them look really nice. However, I think the combat is really annoying. I don't know if I've just not found the way that I would best play it, but I just don't really like it. I feel like I'm getting my ass beat all the time. There's a lot of yapping from everyone, and that's fine, but because it's just kind of random conversation and I'm not super into it, I'm not really engaging with it a lot. To be honest, I haven't done any of the main quests. It's probably why, but because there's all these side quests, I'm like, well, I'm closer to this one. I'm going to go and do this thing. And obviously you can stumble upon quests all over the place. But it's not really grabbed me. And I don't know if I'm the problem, because I feel like people really like it. But I feel like the opposite of Dragon Age, where I'm like, everyone that hates Dragon Age and I really like it. Whereas I feel like everyone online is like, I love Avowed. And I'm like, I just don't get it. I can't see the appeal. I can't find the thing that people love about it. It doesn't feel special in any way.
I've not seen loads of love for it particularly. I've not seen many
Well, that's
people
what we were
dunking on
saying,
it,
actually.
but I've not seen a lot of conversation about it at all actually.
No, when I'm Googling specific issues I'm having, there's not a lot of threads about. Normally if a bigger game was to release and you're like, oh, how do I get past this, or how do I? There's loads and loads of stuff. There's articles and things, and there's not really that for Avowed. We don't have the numbers. We don't know, but it certainly seems to be divisive among the people who have played it, because
Yeah.
I don't feel like there are that many people playing it potentially. No idea. But you're right in that we know we have some people in our audience when we've spoken about it who are like head over heels in love with this. And I listened to a couple of podcasts that were reviewing it when it came out. And on one of them, they were like, this is such a good game and I love it. And then the other one was really middling, where it was like, yeah, like it's good, but like it doesn't really do anything special, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And I feel myself definitely falling more on that side.
Yeah, me too.
Because yes, it's in the it's the Pillars of Eternity universe. So there's a lot of stuff I don't understand about what's going on.
I only
Thankfully,
recently figured out how to use the glossary mechanic.
yes, they have the fantastic thing that Final Fantasy 16 introduced. It wasn't an original feature, but I feel like more games should have it, where you can pause it at any time during a conversation, and any key words that are in a sentence that's been uttered, you can get a bit of clarification about what it is.
I get so annoyed though. I'm like, I don't want to have to read a dictionary of words that you made up.
There is a lot. Some people speak in basically full sentences where every other word is a noun I've
and
never
like
heard.
it'll be like, oh, this is another word for the mayor, and I'm like, can we not? Can we just use mayor?
just
Like,
say mayor.
I know that
He's
we're
a fantasy
creating
mayor.
a universe here, and we've got like a language,
Yeah.
but you're speaking mostly English. Can we just like, hey, he's the ambassador. They do use that word, but like, oh, he's the goofle, and you're like, excuse me,
What is the
what's
goofle?
that?
What a
What
squoogel.
have you made that up for?
I also wasn't a huge fan of the combat until I got the gun. When do you get the gun?
I have a gun, but I just
And I
don't
quite
feel
like the gun. I'm playing on basically story difficulty, because I
Yeah,
was
me
like, I
too.
already feel like I'm facing an uphill battle, because the first time I played it, I didn't even finish the tutorial, and I was like, I am not liking this. So I dropped the difficulty all the way down, just so I could get a bit further. And when I got the gun, I enjoyed that a bit more.
Maybe the wand is the problem. Maybe I need to swap out for the gun. But I was just like, I don't feel like this is a world where guns exist. Like, I feel like everyone else
This is a mod that someone's
Yeah,
added.
like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, but you always have a pistol. And I'm like, why? Why do I have a pistol? Anyway, sorry.
Visually, I think in places it looks good, but in other places it doesn't look so great. It definitely feels in some ways, especially sort of when you're talking to multiple people and they're stood there with their arms by their sides. And we talk a lot on this podcast about how we want games to come out more frequently. They don't have to look incredible.
Yeah.
But this definitely, it is giving sort of mid 2010s
Yeah,
RPG.
it
It
is.
definitely feels a bit out of time.
It's a bit
this game.
dated, I think.
There have been some great moments though. So as soon as I was actually let out of the town and they let me off with Kai, the fishman, Garrus, big fan of him. He's great, but I think it's just because I like Garrus mainly. I started really enjoying it. Like, you're walking down the road towards your objective and there's like an abandoned house. You go in the house, there's some things to loot and stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I got to a dungeon where I had to rescue these adventurers. And there was a really cool side quest in there about another god-touched being who was trying to do some nefarious stuff, but like he had his own like morally grey reasons for doing it. It's like, do you help him? Do you stop him? And like some of that Obsidian writing came in and I was like, cool, I'm feeling this. This is great. And then I went back to town and then I was locked in a conversation with people for ages about nothing.
Yeah.
And then they introduced a new companion who, and I was saying this to you, who seemingly your fish friend knows. That's probably very derogatory to the fish
I
people.
can't remember
of,
what they're called.
They have some crazy. They're from some crazy town with like 12 syllables. I don't know.
Yeah,
What
I
it is.
don't know.
And he's like whispering to you at this bar, like, "Oh, I think things are about to kick off with the new companion." There, it's like, should we do something to stop this? No. I think we should see where this goes. Things are about to get interesting, and he does the most unremarkable stuff you can imagine. It's like, and is he meant to be cool?
Right.
Am I meant to think? Also, it doesn't really have the charm or the humor of like the Outer Worlds, which I was a big fan of. Also from Obsidian, it features some of the most heinous accents I have ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of brothers that you encounter quite early on, and it's like they're from a new place that doesn't exist. It's not even oi governor. It's like, and it's like, where are you from? Could you not find anyone to do the
There's
accent
so many
instead?
British voice actors who
Yeah.
would have bitten your arm
I
off.
made a joke on my stream that like people were like, oh, I don't think we should have disabled people or trans people in like fantasy things. And I'm like, I actually think the issue with this is that you shouldn't have Americans in fantasy RPGs because that always throws me for a loop. When you've got like someone who's like Scottish and then you've got like vaguely English, and then just some guy being like, "Hey man, we gotta go and save the world." And I'm like, "You are not from here."
So was that on your stream? Did you say?
No, I was just saying like because with the Dragon Age people were like, "You can't have trans people in a fantasy RPG."
I was gonna say,
and then it was like, okay, I actually think the main problem here is American accents shouldn't be in a fantasy setting.
the notion that you shouldn't have trans people or disabled people in a fantasy world, like, oh yeah, in fantasy worlds, everyone has like this homogenous body that works exactly the same way.
In the Mass Effect universe, everyone is so physically fit.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
They've all
yeah.
got the same. But anyway, regardless, I have no issue with the American accents. I have a big issue when the accents.
when it's the Americans doing an English.
Someone who's not from that area doing that accent, because it always. I've never heard it be quite so obvious as I've heard it in Avowed so far. And also, I think like it sounds really weird when British voiced characters say things like freaking and use American dialects and things, and vice versa. So if an American American voiced character said bloody hell, for example, it'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
that's weird.
Well, they usually say
That doesn't-
mate in the wrong way.
Yeah,
It
doesn't
quite
sound right. It's like, and that's all the kudos in the world to games that do get that right, where they understand that not only the accents but the dialects are different, and they need. And a sign of a really good game is when a lot of attention's been paid to that, which makes these instances in Avowed really stick out. And I do intend to play more. I've got the second companion now. I said to you guys yesterday, like the night before, I loaded up the game, walked to a quest objective, and then turned it off because I didn't really have enough time. But I do want to give it a bit more time. But I feel so conflicted about this game.
I feel the same way. Like I feel like I just feel like I need to keep searching for the thing that's like going to make me really like it. And I keep like turning it on, playing it for like an hour. And then I think also because I'm so easily distracted and I have to do all the side quests, I'm kind of like, I spent ages just like talking to people, just going from one guy being like, you go talk to this person. And I was like, okay. So I went to talk to that person and I was just kind of like, I don't know what this quest is about because I'm not listening to what they're saying to me. And I kind of feel like maybe I'm playing myself a little bit when it comes to like how I'm playing it. But I feel the need to keep trying, but I just don't know if I have it in me. I'm like so conflicted about it.
Well, life is short.
It is short, but
And
I've
there's
not got
lots of
anything
other
else
things.
to play at the moment. So
Okay.
I'm kind of like,
No excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you considered playing Cross Landlord's Bathroom is Stained?
Oh yeah.
Because I've heard that's really good.
There is one thing I've been playing.
Yeah.
That I've been playing for a few weeks, but we've only been allowed to talk about now.
Oh yeah, of course.
I want to say thank you for a code for this because I have been enjoying myself very, very much. There's a new 2 Point game coming out next week, I think, and it is 2 Point Museum.
Yep.
And I've been playing it, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Much like 2 Point Campus and 2 Point Hospital, it's got that kind of like quirky, funny kind of like energy about it, and there's lots of very similar things. You have to build all the rooms and make sure that your staff are well cared for and paid correctly, and you have to make sure that the people coming to whatever you're doing are kind of getting what they need to out of it. And I really think that Museum has done a lot of stuff really, really well. Like you have to send your experts off on expeditions in order to get stuff for the museum. So you send like your prehistory expert off to a desert and he's going to come back with part of a fossil, and then you have to like send him back, and then eventually you might complete the whole dinosaur skeleton and stuff. And there's like various different experts who've got like prehistory. The ones I've got: prehistory, botany, science, space, fish
people.
and like supernatural. So there's like all these different like experts and different things you can have in your museum. And the more like, there's obviously like with the kind of story mode, so I'm saying like a lot today, there's different areas that you can have, and you can always send if you've got the correct expert, you can send them off to whatever place you want to send them. So your museum can have prehistory stuff and botany stuff and space stuff, which is obviously kind of the goal is to progress and have a museum that has a bunch of different situations. There's like gift shops and cafeterias, and you can set up tours with your experts, and then they'll take people around on a tour. And the more kind of cohesive your tour is, and if it's not too long, and if it's got enough buzz, which is the thing you kind of generate in this game, you'll get higher scores for it, and people will pay more money for it. I've really enjoyed it. It runs really well. Like, I've not had any issues with it, like crashing or anything. And this is obviously 3 weeks before its release, and I've not been having any issues with it. I really like what they've done with like lots of the elements of the like other games as well. You've got ghosts in this one, and you can like introduce, like, suck up a ghost into a vacuum cleaner or like talk it down, and then you build a little room for it where it lives, and people can come and look at the ghosts in the supernatural hotel. Like, that's like a supernatural museum. They're kind of like, yeah, this ghost is happy because they have a fireplace and the room's decorated to their specific time period, and then you just gradually grow it. Obviously there's the whole star mechanic, which has been in the other games as well, where if you've got like 1 star, you've done like the bare minimum, and then it goes, in the other games it goes up to 3 stars, I think. In this game the stars are unlimited apparently, so you can keep getting more the more you build onto your museum. The story ones, the more stars you get, the more things you unlock and places you can go, which is really interesting. And the supernatural one has like almost this like hotel thing, and it's encouraging you to get more ghosts and get like famous ghosts and send your experts off on expeditions to get more famous ghosts from like bigger events and stuff. And I think it's really good. Like, I've really enjoyed myself. You can decorate things to make sure that your like exhibits are higher in quality. The space ones, I've just started doing this alien one. You have these little like celestial cell things, and then you get big displays that you have to put these other displays around to unlock it and make it do a certain action or a certain thing. You've got the workshop to make interactive displays. There's all kinds of things. There's a lot going on in this game, and I've really enjoyed my time with it. The only one I haven't quite figured out yet is that this like science one where you kind of have to research things in order to upgrade your museum like exhibits, but I don't understand that one an awful lot. It keeps being like, you've researched it, and I'm like, where did it go? Where's it gone though? Because you've just told me I've done it and it's not here anymore. But I've really enjoyed my time with it, and I will be playing more of it. I know your wife's been playing it as well. But it's good fun. So if you're a big fan of the other 2 Point games, I think this one's got a lot to do and to be getting on with. The radio's still there, and they still proper yap away. And then you've got like people like Yetis will come and visit your museum, and like
Yetis?
aliens. Yeah, because if you've got like a prehistory one,
they're interested in
it.
Yeah,
so they'll come and
Feel
visit.
represented.
Yeah, and then like the aliens will come and the vampires will come.
The vampires, of course.
Of
yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, they all have little goals of like things they want to do. So the kids will be like, I want to interact with 5 interactive exhibits. And I'm like, well, I have 1. So you're welcome to
do it 5
save
times.
back.
It's probably broken,
Yeah.
like when you go to any museum.
It's going to be sticky.
The button doesn't work.
Yeah. You also have to like make sure your stuff doesn't get stolen. So like thieves will come and try and steal your exhibits, and you have like to set up a camera station for your security guards so that they can monitor and make sure there's no thieves around. Really good game. Really enjoyed it. Fully recommend if you fancy playing it. You're gonna hear me talk more about that in like a minute for the forecast, but that was before I played it. So,
Are you going to stream it as well?
yes, I'm streaming it. Well, I will have streamed it by the time the podcast comes out. You can check it out on the VODs channel on Monday, because I'm streaming on Friday this week because James Jenkins was busy. So I swapped because I'm a good Samaritan. But yeah, so I've streamed that this week. So if you want to see me play it, you can check it out on Monday when it comes out on the VODs channel.
Nice. Amazing. I have played some things other than Avowed. And I should say that Avowed on Series S does not run very well. Now, initially, basically it was my fault.
Okay.
So it's capped on Series X because I played it on X and S. Because initially when I played it on S, I was like, there's so much input delay. This is crazy. And I was Googling it, which is what I was talking about. And there was like nothing that was helping me. On Series X, you get a choice between performance and fidelity mode, as you would expect. And I played it on performance mode and it ran great. I had a great time. On Series S, it doesn't have that, but there was a whole thread about, and this is just bloody Xbox, this whole thread about how, well, there's actually a 40 FPS mode if you have VRR enabled. And I was like, okay, how the hell do I do that? You have to go into your Xbox settings and you have to change your things around. And then I was like, okay, so I don't have a VRR compatible TV. So I can't do that, even though you can set it to 60 frames per second at temp is variable refresh rate or something like that. I can't remember specifically. It's stuff that I don't feel like I should need to understand to get my game to run well, but that's sort of where we are now. So I was pissing about with that for ages. And then I felt like an absolute buffoon because for God knows how long, my TV has not been in game mode.
Right.
You know, where it reduces latency and stuff. And as soon as I turned that off, I was like, oh God, this is way better.
Right.
It still looks crap on Series S and it's capped to 30, which after playing on Series X did not feel good at all. So yeah, your mileage may vary with the Series S version, but most people said that they had a fine time, and the people that didn't were like, oh, just put it on 40 frames. I'm like, I can't. I don't know how. So yeah, anyway, Avowed. That's enough about that. I played a little bit of Marvel Rivals with my friends, played 2 games, got my ass kicked twice, and then turned it off.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Played golf with your friends after that, because I was like, I know how to do that one. We can play that one, just catch up and not get cross. And that's a lovely game.
Yeah.
Although once you finish the first course in the forest, every other course is so hard by comparison. The difficulty curve is insane. I played a little bit more Silent Hill 2, made a bit more progress in that. But the main thing I've played, I think I'm about halfway through, perhaps just over halfway through, the first episode of Lost Records Bloom and Rage. And I've got to say, I am liking it so far. It feels a little bit cringe in places, but that's sort of the point because you are playing as a teenage girl. It's got a cool mechanic where the character that you play as has a handycam, and it's just like a hobby for her, but she makes friends with these other girls by just sort of stumbling upon them with it, and they're like, oh, let's make movies together and things like that. And it has a cool mechanic that you don't have to do at all, but every time you enter a new environment and you bring up your handycam, there are certain things that have like sort of box outlines around them, and if you film them, then it starts a new memory in your, like, you start collecting memories. So it'll be like birds 1 out of 10, and then across that chapter you got to keep an eye out for the birds and film them. Or if you're doing a specific thing in that instance, like record this character just doing things, and you do that 5 times, and once it's done you can then go into your like menu and watch the edited highlights of all the stuff you recorded with some voiceover from your character, and it applies this really grubby 90s film grain to it and stuff.
Nice.
And it does quite a good job of like faking the aging of this of the stuff you shot. And so what I end up doing is just shooting stuff completely off center, and it uses the dual sense to like tilt the camera. So I like shake the camera and it looks like I'm just really excited about seeing a frog. And, and so I've just got this collection of really unhinged things that I've been recording. As a point of direct comparison to the most recent Life is Strange game, which I ended up not being a huge fan of, the amount of different places you go to, like locations-wise, like dwarfs that game straight away, which is really great. You get to see all sorts of things. You also get the impression, I haven't seen too much yet, but like the groundwork's been laid for like stakes. There's quite an interesting mystery at the heart of it that I don't really know much about. I've encountered some like really horrible bully type figures as well that are like that have some really, they're not just like, you stink, I'm taking away your handicap. Like they say some really hurtful things to your character and the other characters. And it's like, this is sort of what I remember from Life is Strange back when Don't Nod were developing it.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can stick the landing at the end of the episode. I have heard some mixed things about how it plays out, but
I've
so
heard that
far,
not people
just
like
sort of
not
ends.
really a lot happens, but like I feel like that's kind of, I think if the next chapter was coming out in a few weeks like it was supposed to, maybe it wouldn't seem so bad, but because it's now been pushed to April.
I'm liking it so far. I'm looking forward to playing more. I like the time setting as well. I have had a couple of like there's a couple of strange bugs and glitches I've had where people are just like all talking over each other all the time, or like I get a dialogue option that's timed and I press it, but it cuts someone off who's asking me a question. So potentially I'm missing out on content that it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're then watching back your tapes. because you're doing the narration over the top, but it also captures whatever anyone was saying at the time. So like there's just all this noise happening.
Cacophony of music.
Yeah, but it's good. I like it so far, and I'm glad that it's on Plus at least because, I was, after hearing the mixed things, I wasn't sure about buying it, but I'm playing it that way. So anyway, that was a very long What We Play in section. Yeah. It's time to move on to the forecast, Ash.
Yeah, let's find out what's coming out in March.
We're marching, get it, through 2025 at a pretty speedy pace, and I've already had some great games drop this year that may or may not be taking up all of our time. However, the world continues turning and games continue dropping at a truly alarming rate. So, without further ado, here is your March gaming forecast. Fans of management sims, and specifically the 2 Point series, should mark the 4th of March on their calendars, as 2 Point Museum launches onto PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC. Much like the others in the series, you're tasked with managing the place, hiring staff, building rooms and ensuring guest satisfaction. However, this time, you've also got to design entertaining and informative exhibits, send specialists off on expeditions to find new fossils, skeletons, plants, fish, and more, and ensure none of your exhibits are stolen by pesky art thieves. Buzz is important, generated by well-decorated exhibits, interactive displays, and guided tours, all of which help you add a star to the quality of your museum, a rating which is now unlimited, unlike 2 Point Hospital and Campus. The quirkiness of the series is still prevalent in the museum, and the colourful characters, exhibits, and adventures are on full display in this one. Next up, from the team behind A Way Out and the harrowing moments of It Takes Two, is the new co-op game from Hazelight, Split Fiction. A mix of sci-fi and fantasy split-screen adventure, the game follows Mio and Zoe, 2 authors trapped in an amalgamation of both of their stories, who must work together in order to survive the dangers of their 2 worlds. Much like the other Hazelight games, the game shifts with each level, changing which world you are in and subsequently what gameplay mechanics are in play. From riding dragons to dance battling a monkey, all the way through to wielding laser swords and escaping a supernova-ing sun. With It Takes Two winning Game of the Year in 2021 and being a beloved co-op game, we're glad to see Joseph Fares taking the helm to direct this one too, and are sure to be in with a fantastic time when the game launches on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC on March 6th. Wrestlers who like games or gamers who like wrestling will all be pleased to know that it's that time of year again when 2K launches a WWE game, and WWE 2K25 launches on the 14th. Like the other games in the series, the game has many different modes for fans to enjoy, including the Showcase mode following the Bloodline dynasty, whoever they are, the My GM mode, My Rise storyline, the Your Universe Sandbox mode, and the brand new Island, an online space where you can take on challenges, complete quests, and customize your original wrestlers, being compared somewhat to NBA 2K's The City. The cover star for this year's game is Roman Reigns, but the game features over 300 wrestlers to play as / hit with tables and chairs should you have a specific wrestler in mind that you'd like to do that too. The game launches on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series, Xbox One and PC, and will hopefully lay the smack down for wrestling fans. Is that a thing? I honestly have no idea. If it doesn't get delayed again, Assassin's Creed Shadows should be launching on March 20th. Set in Japan in the 16th century, the game follows 2 protagonists, a shinobi, Naoe, and a samurai called Yasuke. Once again, the Assassin Brotherhood is being hassled by the Templar Order, and using Ubisoft's new stealth mechanics and combat moves, it's up to our protagonists to stop them. Every bit of exploration, every story mission and side quest has the option to be completed by either of the characters, giving you the choice to run in katana first, or use the grappling hook and new sneaky skills to pick off the enemies one by one. With the game's world being comparable in size to Assassin's Creed Origins, there'll be plenty of question marks to uncover, plus the introductions of seasons into the map will affect the way the game plays, keeping things fresh over what will probably be a very long runtime. The game launches on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC. Lastly, set in the north of England, Atomfall is set 5 years after the real-life wind-scale nuclear disaster in a fictional quarantine zone full of bizarre characters, cultists, mystical creatures, and more. The protagonist is an amnesiac who must explore the zone to uncover what exactly is going on in there. The first-person gameplay has you collecting resources to craft weapons, shooting enemies, stealthing through enemy territory, if you'd like to go for a pacifist run, and exploring the interconnected areas, finding NPCs to talk to. With a quirky, distinctly British attitude and interesting map spanning an area of the Lake District, one of the UK's most gorgeous areas, dare I say, and a story just begging to be unravelled, Atomfall will hopefully be a great entry into the survival action genre when it launches on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, and PC on March 27th. Those, plus Cozy Game Wonder Stop on the 11th for those looking for a relaxing time, Killing Floor 3 launched on the 25th for those who are looking for a gorier, shootier, more undead game to fill your time, or if you're looking to make your PC get really, really hot, then simply wait until Inzoi launches on the 28th. So as you can see, there's plenty to look forward to this month. For now, though, it's time to get back to the podcast.
Wow, great forecast, Ashton.
That was really good.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you. It's time now for question 2. Comes from Last Choice. You may have noticed that I didn't have a fringe in that.
How did
What
she do it?
happened?
I filmed it before the fringe. Last Choice says, hi BAP, BA, PB, AP. Should cover all combinations unless you invite James to fill in. We would never. How dare you?
Can you imagine?
With the news
we
that-
do invite James
Yeah.
to fill in.
With the news that Activision have now been caught out using generative AI to create in-game assets in Call of Duty, how widespread do you think this could be? How long until it becomes more widespread? And is it inevitable it will be used more to reduce costs? Is there anything we can do to show displeasure and influence this will not be influence that this will not be used more? Keep up the good work. Thanks, Last Choice. They've also it's in-game as well as in marketing assets as well. It's not just in-game. They've also been using it in random graphics here and there as well.
Yeah, so I think the biggest sort of part of this story was the zombie Santa that had
With the-
an extra finger sticking
can't
out
see
on
your
his
hands
hand.
now.
it's off frame.
And there was
rubbish.
a sort of an argument that, it might be the edge of the pavement in the background. It's not.
There
You
was
can
also,
tell that it's-
upon like reading this, there was like a glove holding, the like
Yeah.
ball things that you get.
The gobble gums.
The gobble gums. And he fully had 6 fingers.
it's got 6 fingers and its thumb is off screen.
It's
so
just the most
it potentially has 7
cartoonish
fingers.
example
Yeah.
of like everything that everyone mocks AI
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Why
It's
would you
so-
try hands? Hands are like a pretty famously can't do hands.
All you have to do is I'm not saying they should keep using generative AI and just be more careful, but playing massive devil's advocate, just if you're gonna do that, just count the goddamn fingers after you've generated the image and
I saw
remove.
the zombie Santa in game, and I didn't clock it had 6 fingers.
Well, I know. I'm sure you would and probably they didn't either. But if you're going to use generative AI, you
Be
need to
smart about it.
have a
Yeah.
checklist that says literally look at every hand we've generated and count the fingers.
Yeah.
But then we're getting back in this is their
Then
their
someone's
whole
going to
thing.
have to do work.
Exactly, that's it. They're
Hey,
meant
it's
to
creating
be
jobs.
They're meant to be
not.
saving time by using
Yeah.
generative AI, but now they're going to have to employ someone who's like the AI oversight person to make sure the AI isn't doing bad things.
They
Yeah.
also said that they weren't using it for ages, and they've only come out this week and
They
been
got
like,
caught with their
okay,
pants
fine,
down.
Yeah.
we have been using AI.
That's the worst part about this story is that it was being kept secret. They continued to try and be secretive about it, and then eventually they were forced to admit it, which does make you think, as Last Choice suggests in the question, how widespread do you think this could be? Not necessarily just how widespread could it become, but is this already happening and we've not clocked every example? Have there been some major releases recently where
I'm sure that there probably has been with the use of AI voice or writing or design.
because some of it you're just not going to clock, especially if it's writing. If they're writing dialogue, that's going to be any mistakes that are generated there are in all likelihood going to be ironed out. So by the end of it, the finished product is not going to be obviously AI generated. And I'm sure probably a lot of concept art behind the scenes is AI generated these days, just for as a tool. And Activision did, when they admitted this, I didn't bring the quote with me actually, they said generative AI is a tool that is used to assist our developers or something was the way they put it. And there are multiple reasons why generative AI is a bad thing. There's the ecological aspect to it. It costs a lot of money / uses a lot of power and energy to run that kind of stuff. There's also the fact that invariably these models are trained on other people's art without giving credit. There are a few out there that I think do go through the right channels and say, look, we are generative AI, but we just pay artists for what we train them on. But probably, well, maybe not the worst thing. I don't know what the worst thing is, but particularly one bad part about this is that it is seemingly taking away work from real human beings who could be creating pictures of zombie Santas themselves. And so if Activision are being completely truthful and saying, look, it's just used as a tool by our existing workforce and that's it, then at least that issue is sort of ticked off, and you can say, well, at least no one is losing their jobs for it. But I don't necessarily believe that is the case, or if it maybe here and now that's the situation, but down the line, if this continues to become more and more prevalent, it is just inevitable that art teams are going to shrink, because there will just be an AI overseer who sits there and runs loads of stuff through AI that previously would have been assigned to 1, 2, 3, 4 artists. So that's the worst part about this. What can we do to show displeasure and influence this to not be used more? I mean, try and be vocal about it. The fact that they were backed into a corner here and had to admit it shows that they do at least... They can't ignore the question forever.
And they know that people don't like it, which is why they're not...
Why they were secretive about it in the first place. So I think the best we can do is be vigilant, try and spot this as and when it happens, call them out on it. And, as we always say with various things like this, we may have to vote with our wallets if and when the time comes.
If you've created a model where you have to create constant assets for your game, then you can't then complain that it costs you too much money to hire people to do that for you. And I think that that's why they've taken to using AIs, because they have a game that functions as a model of constantly giving players things, whether that's the season pass or the live service element of it. Is now you can get these vampire skin things for your flag or whatever, because that was something else they used AI for. I don't think, you can complain and people go, I don't want your AI rubbish. I want to see something that you've put time in and that you care about. When it comes to how to combat it, I think it is going to become more, well, we already know it's going to become more widespread. Xbox have said this week that they plan on using it to make games. And I think that it is going to become more widespread, but I think all we can do is, if we can see that an AI has been used, you just don't interact with the product. It's not even that you can shout about it, but it just brings attention to it. You almost have to just completely erase its existence from your mind and your social media. Because if you start saying oh, so-and-so game has been using AI and I can see it, I think that it's not a bad thing to do that, but you just kind of have to ignore it a little bit. I'm not explaining it very well, but if you're posting about it, people are going to look it up. It's going to get more traction, and people who are pro AI, who have no other personality other than AI is good, will be well, I'm going to buy the game because AI is in it.
All publicity is good publicity.
Exactly. Whereas if you completely black out about something and you don't talk about it, you almost harm it more in that way. I think it's a difficult balance, because obviously you should talk about it and how it shouldn't be used, and you should make sure that companies know that we don't appreciate it, but also it's almost something to just kind of ignore because you're giving them free publicity, with this Call of Duty stuff. This week, I don't know if you saw it, there was an ID at Xbox showcase this week on with a bunch of indie games, and they put a release date trailer for Revenge of the Savage Planet, which is now coming in May. And the voice that they used in it is kind of the voice that we've seen before, but it sounded really weird and artificial. Obviously, you could, that very much may be that is a a choice that they've made. Like they've taken the
In
guy's
keeping
voice
with
and
the-
they've in keeping with the
game.
the game. But like I looked in the YouTube comments and there was like so many comments being like, hey, is this AI? Like, have you fired the voice actor or is this like purposeful that you've done this? And I think that that's almost something to question as well. It's like, well, are we using AI or are we just making a comment on AI by faking using AI, if that makes sense? And that's where it also becomes a bit blurry. So I think we're going to see this becoming more and more difficult to spot. And I just think it's hard. There's not really a definitive answer of like how to fix this problem.
Well, Harrison Ford recently said that they never need to AI my voice because you have people like Troy Baker who can do an amazing job. And, you know, it will always be the case that there will be the talent out there that AI will not be required for generating great art assets or doing a good impression of Harrison Ford. It's just whether, you know, as soon as it becomes cheaper and like vaguely in the opinions of like game publishers ethical enough that they can get away with it, then it will just become so commonplace.
Well, every newspaper this week had their front page was about it's the same like AI statement about the use of AI and how it needs regulating. Every single newspaper in the UK, that never happens. They hate each other, but they all made a comment.
All the billionaires got together.
and they said
did it.
this is weird and bad, and so they've all put a thing about AI, you know, needing regulation, which it does.
What do you think the reaction is going to be, Peter, when people find out that Ashton's been an AI this whole time?
Don't tell them.
Well, they're going to find out because she's so vocally anti-AI. I think we've done a very
That's
good job
how
of
you
that.
keep it
But
secret,
that's how
yeah.
we've been covering her tracks.
That's why we don't ever, our hands never pass in front of Ashton because
Yes.
it would
Yeah.
ruin the...
That's why none of you have ever seen Ashton in person.
No.
And that's how she can have bangs in one segment and then not in the next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
They programmed in
incredible.
new hair this week. It's been very exciting for me.
That's why she's hiding her hands as well, because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would
She's
be
got
a giveaway.
19 fingers. Some days.
I just
Someday.
pull it out.
Whoa! How did she do that? No, you guys are bang on. They will do this if they think they can get away with it, and they can. Because what are you going to do? Not sell 50 million copies of Call of Duty every year? Because you are. They're going to do it.
And as we say time and again, people who aren't in the same sort of circles as us, the gaming news circle, most COD players will have no idea that this story is happening.
Yeah, exactly. And
care.
even if they are caught, I think it's only going to embolden a lot of studios as well, because if the backlash is, hey,
stop.
you're doing, don't do that, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, we use AI. Yeah, but you're going to stop, right? Yeah, you got us. We used AI. No,
Yeah.
but you are going to stop using it though.
Correct.
Yeah, we did
yeah.
use AI. Yeah,
You got us.
Yeah, they're just it's gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
And you're right, Ashton, in that we're gonna hear more and more stories about how more studios are using it, because it is just if companies cannot fight the allure of the tempting, vague promise of the infinite money bucket that is live service trends, the prospect of cutting loads of jobs and outsourcing, they don't care about the artistic integrity right at the top. The shareholders don't give a crap about that. They want to make as much money as possible. We're going to see so much more of this. And I think it's going to really show, more than anything, which studios, which publishers, which games are, I don't know.
Which games are made for the love of the medium and which games are made for the love of money.
Who is really like in it for video games are art versus video games are there to make. And I don't begrudge any of the developers involved in this, because they've got no say over it. And the industry's so terrible that a job is a job, quite frankly.
And I
and
think
fair
it's
play
fine
to
to want
it.
to make money off of a thing.
Of course,
but it's that thing of like, how much does the want to make money outweigh the want to make something that is good?
Yeah, it's like trying to widen the margin by like cutting things all at the very bottom and then like maximizing stuff at the consumer end and saying like, you have to pay for absolutely everything, and here's all the microtransactions and DLC that is actually ready to go, but we're not releasing it on day one. You pay loads and we'll pay almost nothing to our art team.
It wouldn't be a good business decision, but we know that Xbox, we know that Activision, we know that EA have enough money to never have to close a single studio, never have to let a single member of staff go forever. Even if they haven't got anything to do, even if every game they make flops, they could keep them employed forever if they wanted to. Again, not good business sense. And certainly they could take one of their extremely talented artists off making Cowabunga Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle skins for Warzone for like a couple of weeks to put them on some loading screens for Black Ops 6.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many solutions to this that don't involve AI, but when the tantalizing possibility of saving some money is there, then you're going to see AI being used, ethics, environment, be damned, don't care. Going to save some money, going to cut some corners. It's going to happen loads. And you're right, there's not much that we can do about it. You can vote with your wallet. It's impossible to live a purely ethical life in the world that we exist in. So just do what you think is right. If you feel that strongly about it, maybe don't play it. Do tweet about it. Treat it with total apathy and don't talk about it at all and pretend it doesn't exist. Completely up to you, whatever approach is best. Or if you don't care, you don't care, I suppose. But we are going to see more and more of this stuff either way. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
Oh,
Anyway.
what was that?
Oh, something else
God,
is a
sorry,
shame.
that's
Can you
so-
smell that?
The
Yeah,
stink
it smells-
in this
It
room.
smells really stinky
It
peculiar.
really stinks in here and it's so peculiar.
It's probably weird news, I think.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. Remember, if you'd like to submit some weird news to us, you can do so under the relevant social media post that goes out on a Wednesday. However, if you'd like to guarantee a shout out at this point in the podcast, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump. That's it. Support us at the appropriate tier and become a podcast producer just like
Michael Pendlebury.
Andy Scott.
Huge Cash Chip Thompson's Thumbs.
Eric Sue.
Sorry, this is just cracking me up. Blake Gomez.
Nicole Hansen.
Great Giggity.
I can't do it. I'm laughing too much. Sorry. GY Goliath.
Gabrielle Philippink.
And Big Money Bobby Vegas.
No. We
Just
promised
one.
last
Just
week.
one sad one.
We promised last week that everybody would get air horns this
Yeah.
week. So
Including huge Cash Chip Thompson's thumbs.
can everyone change their names?
I was putting those on this thing, and I was like, "That's really funny."
Yeah.
It's really good. Thank you so much, podcast producers. We really appreciate you. Wah. Peter.
Yes.
You got some weird news.
I've got a weird news that was sent to us by Hoodlum Amnesium at Hamnesium on Twitter /X.
No. Never. I'm
Never.
never going to call it X.
No, me neither.
the Bird app.
The Bird app. This is according to PCGamer.com. It is written by Fraser Brown, and the headline is pretty much all just the headline. A Skyrim dev broke the game before launch when they made thousands of tiny ants cast individual shadows. : quote, why is the game running so slow? There is actually one other example of this happening, but it's a very short article, actually. Bethesda RPGs are typically jam-packed with tiny details that most players will never notice.
Bethesda is a company.
Indeed.
Skyrim is a game.
A company is a.
Hang on. It's not just that I kill someone with a sword and there's a reaction to the crime, says former Bethesda producer Jeff Gardiner. It's the sense that there's a living world around you and things happen. Gardner left Bethesda in 2021 and founded Weird Song developer Something Wicked Games. But after 15 years with the company, he's got plenty of stories. He recalls how they were free to do the cool stuff, which sometimes caused issues in the game. This could sometimes create problems. Those also result in some of... Hang on.
You okay?
You
No,
good?
I'm sort of trying to skim through it and actually just butchering the article. Maybe I should just read the whole thing. This could sometimes cause problems. And then we have a quote from him. Those also result in some of the headaches at the end of the game when you're trying to ship, Gardner says. One headache stemmed from Skyrim's nosy butterflies. They put butterflies in Skyrim and they put a system in where the butterflies would... The article's just jumped right to the top. And now I can't... Now I can't scroll any
The
further
articles
down.
would detect if you have flowers on your person and they would come and find you if you had
It
flowers.
was an
on you.
ad that made
Butterfly, not article.
that glued me to the top of
What
the
did I
article.
Article.
This is a
Article.
disaster. Isn't it? Should we start again?
They put a system in where the butterflies would smell flowers in your inventory and start following you around the game. But this was very expensive. And by this, I mean there was a lot of processing that had to happen because all the butterflies in the game had to detect whether or not the player had flowers. And we were like, why is the game running so slow? And then you spend hours figuring out, oh, it's because so-and-so put the script in the game that makes it so if you're carrying flowers, butterflies are attracted to you.
Bloody so-and-so.
Coincidentally,
Hate that guy.
Ants created a similar problem. Gardner remembers how artist Mark Tier, he's naming and shaming, added these wee beasties to the game, but he accidentally made them shadow casters by mistake, meaning the light had to cast a shadow. And back then, shadow casting was the most expensive thing in the rendering, and so it caused another headache. Thousands of ants that you can barely see casting tiny shadows. But he says that's the fun of it. That's the fun that they have in development.
It is fun pulling back the curtain on these things, though. The stuff you don't think about, what could cause issues and so on.
I remember it being a revelation to people that ants were even in the game at all. People were playing Skyrim for years, and like I saw a YouTube video get posted. I mean, some people will have noticed them, but I also saw a very popular YouTube video that had been uploaded a good 3 or 4 years after the game released, saying things you never knew in Skyrim, and everyone was saying, oh my god, I didn't know there were ants. And they like have little lines of ants, and I think sometimes you can follow them, and there's an ant hill at the end, like off in the undergrowth.
Can't say I ever paid close attention to the ants, because it's sort of stuff you don't really think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes the world feel alive.
I've got some news
Yeah.
from Jonathan Wong on Facebook. From metro.co.uk by Michael Beckwith.
Beckwith.
Pokemon fans bid over $6,000 for 7-year-old Charizard-shaped Cheeto.
Oh,
It's higher than that now, I think.
Maybe. A crisp that happens to look like the Pokemon Charizard is about to change hands in a hotly contested bidding war amongst fans. Pokemon fans must be some of the richest people in gaming, given how willing they seem to be to spend huge amounts of money on related merch. After all, these are the same people who will spend hundreds, if not thousands of pounds on trading cards. And yet, the current bidding war is not over a particularly rare card or piece of merchandise, but a Cheeto. Not a bag of Cheetos, but a single Cheeto. Why? It's because it vaguely looks like the dragon-like Pokemon Charizard, which is apparently all it takes for someone to drop over $6,000 on it.
Mental.
The Cheetozard, as it has been dubbed, is being sold through auction website Goldin. It was initially discovered by First and Goal Collectibles, which normally deals with sports memorabilia sometime between 2018 and 2022. Clearly sensing it had a moneymaker on its hands, First and Goal Collectibles preserved the Cheetozard and even gave it a custom-made card framing before selling it for an undisclosed sum to Card Marketplace Arena Club in 2024. They then listed it. It got sold again. Blah, 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 blah. Bidding began on February 11th, and the starting price was only $250, about £198. But at the time of writing, it has since rocketed up to $6,250, or £4,940.
Well, when I wrote the post for our social media yesterday, it was on $7,250, I think.
So through all the times,
$7,750 at the moment. I've still got 2 days left.
So through all the times that it's changed hands, people have already spent thousands, potentially thousands on this.
And no one's
crisp.
eaten it yet.
Yeah.
No one's even eaten
Well,
it
it's
yet.
because it is covered in glue.
Yeah.
You can excavate that. It's an afternoon, isn't
Yeah.
it? Ship that away.
Yeah, and then after we posted that on Twitter, a bunch of people being like, "We've made a crypto coin called the Cheetozard."
Oh
And
yeah,
I
all
was
the
like, "Get
bots
a life."
descended on
God,
Twitter
yeah.
as soon as
Get
we
a life.
mentioned it. Was like, "Oh, it's Characoin or something, Cheetozard coin," and loads of crypto bots suddenly appear. It's a good social media platform. That one,
So
they've
good.
done good things over there.
If you want to buy a crisp for almost $8,000, you can do that.
I bet it goes for 10,000 at the end. People will
It's
snipe.
still got 2 days left.
Sunday, I think it
Someone
finishes. Yeah.
snipe.
So there's still time. If you're listening to this podcast on release, I think something like 3 a.m. UK time on Sunday is when
You
it
can get your
finishes.
Set an
Cheetozard.
alarm. What if we went out at lunchtime and bought a packet of crisps and just sold one? And we're
Yeah.
like, "This is the TripleJump crisp." And we put it up for auction, and we could at least make the cost of the bag back. You know, like
We
we could maybe buy 2 more bags.
We could really cheat the system by we buy a packet of crisps.
And we bite it so it's the shape of
we could do that. Or we just find the weirdest looking Cheeto in there.
Yeah.
we keep it aside
Yeah,
in a box, and then we just introduce a new like plushy character who's like this weird, like bumpy, lumpy.
It looks an awful lot like a Cheeto,
and we're
man.
like, oh, look at this. This is like this is Charlie. We don't mention Cheetos at all.
Yeah.
And then in about 2 months' time, when everyone loves Charlie, we go, we have found a Charlie Cheeto.
Oh my God.
Would you believe it? He
Are
looks
we-
just
It's
like him.
green.
We keep this off the books as well. We don't tell Adam.
No.
He doesn't know, so we can split the money 3 ways. And that's
Yeah.
how we do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. Profit. I've got some weird news.
Oh.
It's from Lloyd Williams on Facebook, Top Fan.
Top Fan.
Relation.
No relation.
This is an article by Sarah Fields from Gamer Ant.
Love the game around.
And the headline is Twitch is getting sued for more money than all the money that exists in the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a Russian streamer lawsuit leads to an unrealistic sum larger than any money in existence. Annoyingly, I read through this article. It doesn't actually say what the amount of money
Yeah,
is.
I was looking at that.
But
as
it does
well.
give an example of a similar lawsuit which does mention the money, and that is really funny.
I was going to say, I'm sure we've had a story before, like months ago, where someone was being sued for all the money in the world.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
So Twitch has been sued and allegedly owes more money than exists on the entire planet. However, Twitch isn't taking it lying down and has now filed a counter-suit in an effort to fight against the judgment. Back in 2022, websites and services like Twitch, YouTube, Valve, and Epic Games were required to follow sanctions on Russia and Russian individuals that were put in place due to the war in Ukraine. Individuals and companies located in or holding banking accounts within Russia were no longer able to receive payments following these sanctions. However, this has led to some backlash, and in this particular case, a Russian streamer has sued Twitch, leading to this gargantuan sum, which it does not say. As uncovered by Polygon, they might actually tell us what it is, Twitch is countersuing following a lawsuit that would have it pay a streamer a sum, in quotes here, larger than all the money in the world.
The money's not real, so
It's not even real.
Just print more money.
yeah.
Back in 2022, Russian League of Legends streamer Kirill Konstantinovich Malofeyev,
Sick name.
Goodness me.
aka
Engage.
Likrit, sued Twitch in a Russian court due to having his Twitch account suspended. The suspension was tied to the aforementioned Russian sanctions, which reportedly labeled Malofeyev as being a Russian national who had a role in a worldwide sanctions evasion and malign influence network led by his Russian oligarch father.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it
yes,
gets more
well,
interesting now,
yeah.
doesn't it?
He's not
So-
just a regular. He's not just random guy from Russia.
So I'm going to skip through now because it's quite expansive, but that's an important thing. And then his father's suing on his behalf, which is another thing to bear in mind.
Right.
Daddy.
Yeah, it's basically that. So
He's scary looking. Is that him?
possibly.
He's
Yeah, I think
scary.
so. While the first suit was dismissed, the October 2022 lawsuit saw Russian courts demanding that Twitch reinstate the account or pay a compounding penalty of 100,000 rubles, or roughly $1,100 per day, doubling per week, leading to the tremendous sum Twitch is now fighting
Right.
against.
Like exponential.
Now, Twitch is filing a countersuit claiming it didn't receive adequate notice of this hearing to begin with and that the penalty is unjustified. According to Twitch, Malofeyev only generated around $2,000 in revenue from streaming before the service was suspended. So I don't know how they could possibly justify the amount of money that he's saying that is owed there. Keeps going. They're basically arguing it. This isn't the first time that an online streaming platform has been slapped with a demand for an amount like this by a Russian court. After YouTube banned 2 Russian channels due to the same sanctions, one of the channels sued, and the Russian courts decided in favor of the channel. As a result, compounding penalties led to YouTube owing more than the global GDP by the end of 2024, or about 20 decillion US dollars.
Yeah,
Wow.
Google it. Russia
Wow.
fines Google 20, I think it's decillion.
Decillion.
Yeah.
Mental.
More than all the money in the
I don't know
world.
why we don't know how
I love
much
that
he's
guy
suing for.
when he acts.
That's a 2 followed by 36.
Decillion Murphy. I'm a big fan of Decillion Murphy
It's a
movies.
2 with 36 zeros at the end. Oh, in
36.
rubles, that is. But yeah.
That is mental.
36, counted them myself.
I'm just going to see if Polygon actually say how much is sued for. 25-page lawsuit. It doesn't bloody say, or maybe it does. I'm skim
Maybe
reading
it's like
really fast.
not public amount.
But
maybe.
all we know is that Twitch have said it's more than the money in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mental. That's absolutely not going to go anywhere. I don't know how you would enforce that,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Aiming high, shooting for the moon, landing around the stars.
He owns Twitch. I own Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I am the owner of Twitch.
My dad owns Twitch.
Well, there we are, everyone. That was some weird news, wasn't it? It's time now for the big discussion. It's big discussion time. Time for the big video game discussion that this week comes courtesy of Blake Thomas, who says, "Hey, Bap, another week, another company laying off many employees.
Yep.
Yeah,
This time
boy.
around, it's Warner Brother Games." I think you mean, yeah, boy.
Oh, no.
Sad one.
Boy.
Large publishers keep shrinking and indie titles are making bigger splashes. Do you think the model of the AAA studio is going to drastically change in the near future? P.S. R.I.P. Nemesis system trademarked. We hardly knew ye. It concludes. Right, I've got a write-up here from Kotaku, written by Ethan Gack. Monolith Productions revealed it was making a Wonder Woman game back in 2021. Now, publisher Warner Bros. Games has announced that the project has been canned, and the studio best known for the Middle-earth Shadow of War games is being shut down as well as part of larger cuts.
I hate Warner Bros.
The shakeup comes after 2024's Suicide Squad bombed and platform fighter Multiverses failed to make a comeback. The news, first reported by Bloomberg, was confirmed by Warner Bros. Games in a statement provided to Kotaku over email. "We have had to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises: Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios: Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Bros. Games San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game, will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately, this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities: money. This is another tough decision, as we recognize Monolith's storied history of delivering epic fan experiences through amazing games. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as today is, we remain focused on and excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios, and getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond." That's the end of the statement.
If I ever see Zaslav on anywhere, it's on site.
Zaslav.
What's his name? John Zaslav.
Is that who it was?
Name?
I don't know.
He's
It doesn't
the
say.
CEO. I'm going to Google it. His name is Zaslav.
Zaslav, okay.
I can't remember what his first name is.
In addition to Monolith, the publisher is also closing Player First Games, the team behind Multiverses, and Warner Bros. San Diego, which had been working on an unannounced AAA free-to-play cross-platform game.
David Zaslav.
The team behind Multiverses, who came out in beta back in 2022 before relaunching again last year to less fanfare and more player complaints, recently announced that the current Season 5 update will be its last. This news comes after recent reporting from Bloomberg that plans at Warner Bros. Games were in flux after the flop of last year's Suicide Squad cost the company $200 million, and other multiplayer games like Harry Potter Quidditch Champions struggled to find an audience. The report laid some of the blame for the publishers' gaming woes on mismanagement from above and lack of direction.
Fact.
Monolith's Wonder Woman game was rebooted last year after struggles to incorporate the studio's patented Nemesis system for evolving relationships with NPCs, according to Bloomberg. WB Games Montreal, meanwhile, is reportedly pitching a possible Game of Thrones game, while Rocksteady Studios pivots back to single-player projects with a pitch for a new Batman game after its Suicide Squad debacle. Longtime Warner Bros. Games head David Haddad recently announced he was leaving the company. And thus concludes the article there. This is horrible news. We talked about it on a news video earlier this week, Peter and I. What do you make of this, Ashton?
I think it's awful. I think Warner Bros. Are just an awful company, from games to movies and TV shows. Absolutely dreadful. David Zaslav just loves to cancel things. He's the tax write-off king, and I think he is one of the worst things that's ever happened to the entertainment industry. Full stop.
Yeah, they got rid of Coyote versus Acme or whatever.
Yeah, and the Batgirl
the tax write-off
movie that was finished. They binned off.
So was Coyote, I think. That was finished.
Yeah. Everything about what has been going on at Warner Bros. Over the last few years is just straight up the pits. And this is just awful. I wasn't that worried, bothered about a Wonder Woman game. Not really that exciting of a character for me. But I do think that Monolith as a whole has got such a legacy, and the Nemesis system is such a big deal that it is absolutely enraging that Warner Bros. Own the rights to that now and have full control over how it can and cannot be used. I just think it's a massive shame. I think to close Monolith Studios when every decision has seemingly been taken out of their hands is just fills me with unadulterated rage.
Yeah, it does. We did know that the Wonder Woman game was in trouble. We'd heard that it was rebooted. There was actually an article on Eurogamer on the 7th of this month that said we've heard that the Wonder Woman game was years away.
Yeah, well, we
if it
talked
ever
about it on
launches
the news
at all.
when it was there was that they talked about that and Monolith, and then they talked about how they were making a Batman game at the same time. But then we're like, yes, years away. I think that was from Jason Schreier as well, actually.
Yeah, I think originally, yes. The article then went on to actually say, which does shed some light potentially on maybe a bit more about what was his name? David Haddad. Yeah, who we speculated that him going might do something, but we don't really know much about him. This article then said that's according to a new report by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier detailing the behind-the-scenes turmoil caused by a culture of ineffectual trend chasing and wasted development time at Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment during the tenure of outgoing president David Haddad, a period said to have lacked a strong, cohesive vision.
Yeah.
So that definitely has played into this as well, that they've just been, and we talked on the news about how Warner Bros. Interactive doesn't really feel like a games publisher. It's just a division of a big entertainment company, and a lot of their decisions haven't made a lot of sense in recent years.
I think it's also a shame how many great studios are just dragged through the mud. Like Rocksteady's name is just been sullied, and Monolith Studios, like, they are a studio which has a lot of respect, and this is just like awful to drag their name through the mud as well. I mean, Multiverses was an absolute flip show. That whole process, they released the game that people really liked, took it away from them, brought it back worse. How do you do that? And then it's just no wonder it's failed. Like, if you take the fact that that whole situation was just crazy at the time, watching it be like, the beta's out, you can play it for a month, and then we're going to take it away from you for 6 months and you can't play it anymore. And then you can play it again, but we've changed it and it's bad now. What an insane thing.
Yeah, I agree with you as well, Ashton, in that, like, I'm not that bothered about Wonder Woman necessarily as a character, but I think it was probably a much better way to go if they, if Warner Brothers are thinking we should do more superhero games. If we're not going to do another Batman, which now they are, but at the time they probably were thinking not for now. There's been talk for a little while about, are Rocksteady going to do a Superman game? And I think I'd much rather play as Wonder Woman than Superman, because how do you make a fallible Superman character? Do you equip?
God.
He's God. Do you have to equip everyone with kryptonite? In which case, all right, well, what's the point then?
I've got a great idea, right?
Yeah.
It takes a little inspiration from a game that Rocksteady released last year.
Yeah.
You give everyone guns.
Yeah.
And Superman has loads of big, glowing purple weak points.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's such a good idea.
How you do it.
That's such a good idea.
So, although I'm not that bothered about Wonder Woman necessarily, I do think it would have been an interesting direction for them to go in.
Of the kind of Justice League characters, her and Batman are kind of the only ones that are like feasible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to play
faster than a speeding bullet,
I know
and the Flash can run at the speed of light. Is that how do you
There
design
could
a
never
game?
be
And
a
as a
decent
guy
Flash
who
game.
lives under the sea and like he's a merman.
Everyone's least favorite part of every
Exactly.
video game ever released is
Swimming.
Just the
underwater.
water game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it could have been, outside of Batman, it would have been one of the better directions to go in. So it is a real shame, and so much work has gone into this. So the cancellation of that game and, of course, the closure of the studios, multiple studios, is terrible news. In terms of Blake's question, how do we think this is going to potentially change the AAA scene? I think that we've said before, I personally think I'd like to see scope get smaller in games, broadly speaking. I still think there's always going to be room for your
Big
absolutely,
blockbusters.
your big blockbusters that we do see every year, and also your absolutely massive blockbusters like GTA. There will always be room for games of those sorts of scales, but there's no reason why we can't have some smaller, more enjoyable experiences like your Astrobots, like your Joseph Fares games, which are slightly more focused. So that's what I would like to see. But I think it could go either way. I think, potentially the current trend is, or for the past few years, the trend has been that games just seem to be getting bigger and the scope is wider and more money is being risked on these massive projects. So if that continues, we could just see games continue to get larger, perhaps more and more duds coming out year on year. Or maybe, with Astrobot, for example, winning Game of the Year, perhaps there will be some thought going on behind the scenes at some of these larger publishers, and they might be thinking, well, if not like getting rid of large games entirely, maybe we should, sprinkle in a few sort of more medium scope games. That's what I'd like to see. Yeah. I don't know if it will happen. And the other thing is, in the case of Warner Brothers, they have said that, as you said, Ben, the quote, that they're leaning more towards proven IP at the moment. So I think maybe that is something that we're already seeing and may continue to see, at least for the foreseeable, while there does seem to be such turmoil in the industry with studio closures and stuff, that I think publishers might get more and more risk averse, and will continue to see either established IP, and we might see new games and new series and new takes on these worlds, but rooted in DC or Marvel. We've got Wolverine coming out, for example, Gollum and so on. Star Wars as well. There's always Star Wars games coming out, or not even new stuff within established universes, but just sequels and remakes and remasters. You look at, I was thinking about all the big publishers at the moment, like Activision, for example. What are they doing at the moment other than either sequels to series that already exist or remasters and remakes, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater seemingly coming out? Can you think of anything that Activision have published recently that's not a sequel?
I'd need to have a look.
Yeah, I would also have to have a look, but there are very few. There are few enough that we can't think of one immediately. The likes of Rockstar as well. I mean, why fix it if it ain't broke? Don't fix what ain't broke. They're doing GTA and Red Dead, and they will probably continue to do so for the foreseeable. It's not the only way things are going. You've got Microsoft putting out things like South of Midnight, and Naughty Dog are trying Intergalactic. So we are seeing some innovation and some new IP out there. But yeah, I think that's one of the main things we could see, is it's not just Warner Brothers who are relying on established IP.
Makes for grim reading, Activision's publishing. There is one, though.
Right.
So from 2020, you've had Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Okay, yeah,
that's an original one. Crash Bandicoot 4, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Crash Bandicoot 4 again for some reason, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 again for some, this article's weird, Call of Duty Vanguard, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, Crash Team Rumble, Modern Warfare 3, Warzone Mobile, and Black Ops 6.
And even within that, they take a risk, in quotes, on something like Crash Team Rumble, and because it doesn't perform super well. I mean, I'm not trying to defend Crash Team Rumble. It wasn't for me, but because it doesn't
people
print
hate Crash.
money. Yeah, people hate Crash because it didn't print money within weeks. They stopped supporting that within months, I think. Yeah. So there's just such risk aversion at the moment, and I can understand why, but I think that's the main thing we're going to see more and more of.
I think we're going to see quite a significant shift in the market when it comes to what games get the airtime, as it were. I think we're going to start to see a lot more indie and AA studios taking up a lot more of the kind of roster at these Game of the Year ceremonies and stuff. I also think we're going to see them do a lot better when it comes to numbers and feedback on them.
They're the ones doing the new stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that we're at a point now where I think we're going to start to see big companies like your Activisions and your Xboxes and your Sonys start to put feelers out into purchasing smaller studios that have done really good things. I think that we're going to see a kind of another shift in the size of things like Devolver and Focus Entertainment and Annapurna Interactive. I think these, who by the way have a showcase coming up soon, Annapurna do.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
I think that we're going to see a lot more focus from the kind of the gaming core audience on those smaller games. I think that the market is going to shift a lot when the Switch 2 comes out, because I think we're going to see a lot more cozier games coming out. I think the cozy game market is already massive. You have suddenly a huge demographic of people who would never play games like Call of Duty and those big blockbuster games, who will spend quite literally hundreds of hours in games that are creative and cozy and smaller and more kind of focus driven by smaller studios. And I think that market is absolutely huge right now. Admittedly, like it is quite inflated. Is that the word I'm looking for? No. Like oversaturated when it comes to like how many games there are in that market. But when a game does well, it does well. Like it makes a lot of money. So I think maybe we'll see that market shift a little bit when the Switch 2 comes out. I think we'll see a lot more games for that demographic of people. I think I don't think we're going to lose AAA games. I think they are going to be here to stay. I think we're still going to get our yearly Call of Duties. We're still going to get Assassin's Creed for as long as Ubisoft live. I think that we're going to still get these big blockbuster Star Wars games coming out of EA. I think we're still going to get these games from Warner Bros. Whether they'll be good or not is like another story, whether they interfere. I think we're kind of coming to the end now of the market that was live service is the way forward. This is the only way games can be made. I feel we're coming to the end of that idea now. I think all the games that were in that kind of boom have come out and have either done really well or failed. I think we'll still see people trying it and it popping up here and there, but I don't think we're going to have nearly as many live service games coming out over the next few years because they're just proven to not be a reliable source. You can't spend all this money on a live service game because 8 out of 10 times they don't work. So I think we'll start to see maybe that go down quite a lot as well. I don't know. I think maybe we'll see a lot more single player games and maybe co-op games coming out. And we'll still, like I said, get a bunch of multiplayer games. But I think these AAA games are just going to be your big blockbusters. We'll get like a few a year from like the big studios. Some of them will do well, some of them will be awful, but at the end of it all, like I think we're going to see the AA and indie market become a lot more mainstream. I mean, it already is, but even more so, I think.
You'd like to think it won't get any worse. And you're right. I think most publishers have now flipped around and found out in regards to live service that the just throwing money away and all the studio closures and all the bad press and all the reactions from their established core audiences who know what they want from those particular publishers saying, we don't want this. This is not what we're interested in. Concord being a prime example of that. But then you get stats like this from Matt Piscatella, who you may be familiar with that name, the executive director at video game industry analysts at Sakana, formerly MPD, who said that more than 40% of the total time spent playing PS5 or Xbox Series X/S games in the US last month was spent on 10 live service games. So there is still, unless all live service games go away, they will always be there, and there will always be someone high up at a studio, shareholder perhaps, who's like, why aren't we making Fortnite
quoting
money?
that stat.
I'm not saying that they're going to be dead forever.
No, 100% not. Why can't we make a Fortnite? Let's make a Fortnite.
We could be one of those 10.
Exactly.
No, you can't.
And whether they are talked off the ledge by people saying, did you hear about Concord? Bloody hell. Or whether they have to relent slightly and you end up getting weird things like Crash Rumble that no one really wanted. No. We're still going to see that, unfortunately.
You're going to see it coming for IPs, like the famous kind of characters and IPs. I think that's where we'll start to see. They're like, we can't do a new live service. It has to be something that's already existing.
And people won't want it.
No.
And
Looney Tunes Wacky Bash. It's coming. Looney Tunes Wacky Bash.
Yeah.
I've decided.
This
Wouldn't
stuff
surprise me.
This stuff is still going to happen. We're still going to see studio closures, unfortunately. It's what we've spoken about so many times about how games need to be cheaper to make, which is impossible, seemingly. Not through taking shortcuts with AI, preferably. And we need shorter experiences. And that's actually a lot of the praise that I've heard for Avowed has echoed that sentiment, where it's like Avowed, I think it was James, I can't remember his last name. I think he's at Eurogamer now. He made a video about Avowed, and he was saying that it takes him back at least to like 2008 Xbox 360 era, where it felt like there were games being released, like multiple games being released every month, and none of them outstayed their welcome. You would just sit there and you'd play it for like a dozen hours and you'd finish it and then you just move on to the next thing. It doesn't try to dominate your time. It's not there forever, etc. And I know Avowed has faced its own issues and that's been in development for a long time as well.
Yeah.
But like just a return to shorter, more modest experiences, which is the gap that's being filled by indie stuff now, as you said. So hopefully, yeah, people have been burned enough now that we don't see more live service stuff. And I know that in this particular instance, we're not talking about live service with Wonder Woman, but we just need to make cheaper
Well, the reason
games.
that Warner Bros. Have struggled so much is because they tried to do
They
that
tried to
with
do live
Suicide
service.
Squad.
But
And
lest
they keep being like, if Suicide Squad would have worked, this would never have happened. And
Yeah,
it's like, well,
their statement's
don't
so
know,
stupid
babe.
for so many reasons. But yeah, the fact that they're like, we need to redouble our efforts on DC, and it's like, my dude, you just cancelled a DC project, and also it was a DC game that you forced through
And that you keep saying
as a
is the
live
problem.
service game that was the problem in the first place.
Well, and also with Warner Brothers, you know, you say what you like about the underlying IP, but one of their biggest successes recently, as I said in the news video, was Hogwarts Legacy.
Yep.
And the one lesson that they could learn from that, hopefully, is not necessarily let's make loads more Harry Potter games, but because they went and then made the Quidditch game. But that Quidditch game, I don't know if it was live service, but I
it's a
imagine
multiplayer one.
Yeah.
It's just Rocket League.
I imagine it has a lot of cosmetics you can buy or citation needed. I don't actually know exactly how it works, but you know, they took exactly the wrong thing from that lesson, which was, oh yeah, people like Harry Potter, right? Let's make a Quidditch game, which is multiplayer. No. Maybe that game did quite well that year because it was a focused single player game.
Yeah.
And perhaps you should have tried that with your DCs or your Game of Throneses, which maybe they're now doing with Batman and a Game of Thrones game. But yeah, they've hit some real stumbling blocks along the way when they could have actually just had some commercial success with Hogwarts Legacy and decided, why don't we try some more of that?
Yeah.
You know?
I think there was a quote actually at the time when they were talking about how successful Hogwarts Legacy was, where I think all the headlines were like, Warner Brothers takes exactly the wrong lesson because they came out and said, someone very high up said something breathtakingly stupid, which was like, wow, this is huge. We're going to double down on live service.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, it's like EA being like, the reason that Dragon Age failed is because there wasn't live service.
Yeah.
It feels like someone at the top is just like,
Who's doing
bumbling along being like, this is the thing I think now. And you're like, and
It
what
is
is the evidence?
Mental, absolutely insane. Although, anyway, sorry. As we said on the news, our thoughts are with those who were affected by this, and hopefully you can all find work soon.
And RIP
but-
the Nemesis system.
Yeah, the Nemesis system.
Yeah, I mean,
what
they
a
still
bloody
own the
waste.
trademark or the whatever it is, the
Put it
patent,
in
so
a
they
Batman game.
Yeah.
Put it in a Batman game, but they just fired all the people who worked on it.
Yeah,
so
know
That's
how
the
to use
thing.
it.
Will it be implemented
so
properly?
stupid. Anyway, thus concludes this week's podcast, a hefty one. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know what you thought of all the things we discussed down below in the comments. There's a few places you can find us on the internet. Peter's going to tell you a couple of them now.
Yes, you can find us at youtube.com/Team TripleJump for our video content and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump, where most of our streams happen, occasionally special ones on YouTube as well. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you are paying for a bundle of things, including a Twitch sub at no extra cost. So redeem that against us and get all the benefits of being a subscriber.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Blue Sky, on all of which we are Team TripleJump. We post all the latest news on there. Come
Yeah.
and hang out. And if you'd like to support us, it's patreon.com/Team TripleJump.
TripleJ.mup is our website. There you can find links to everything that we do. And if you go to TripleJ.mup/video game, you will be redirected to the Steam page for a video game that we're making, and you can wishlist it right now. Also, why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms. And thus concludes this podcast. Time now for the sponsor, which makes good sense, is good and clever.
Good sense.
That, of course, is Cross Landlord's Bathroom is Stained. And that is available now. It's a real game. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.